Hello, welcome. I'm Shane Simpson here in Ottawa, Canada, and here to talk about some improvising devices, as I call them. They're just basically ways to beef up your existing blues playing. Too often, we as guitar players, we see this all the time. We're just playing that global E blues scale. If we're playing over blues in E, let's say standard three-chord blues in E, a lot of us just use that same global scale, I'll call it, and no matter what chord we're on over top. But there's really some cool ways to sort of play along with or to play the chord of the moment, or to allude to the chord of the moment, which is more of a jazzy approach to playing blues. So I've got a couple of devices here to share with you. What I call devices are just little motifs, basically. You can call them anything you want, but they're going to draw from the pentatonic major scale as well as your blues scale, and I'm assuming that you know the difference between the two. If not, there'll be some literature up on the website that you can download. These will be written down there as well, downloadable as PDFs. What I have here, I'm going to call this box 3 in E-blues, just so we agree. There's a lot of blues scale organizational techniques out there. This one is pretty standard. I'm going to call this box 3 in E-blues. I think that's one that most of us know here in the 5th fret area in the key of E. And what I'll do, the first device is going to target the major third of the chord, which, as most of us know, is not part of your blues scale, your pentatonic minor scale. It's not part of that, but you can kind of majorify it, if that's a word, and it sounds really cool when you do. So here's your minor third, which is in the blues scale itself, or pentatonic minor scale, and there's your major third. So I'm going to target that guy. I'm going to surround him first with the 4th of the scale, and then go to the flat third, and then go to that major third, down to the 2nd, which is also being drawn from pentatonic major. Here's your root, here's a major 7, and eventually the flat 7. So you get a little chromatic there. You've got the root of the scale going to the major 7th, and then again to the flat 7. So that's a little chromatic, which makes it a little interesting. So that in time is a chord, and yeah, it's really nice. In that position, I can bring it up the octave by beginning here on this A note, which is the 4th, and you'll find this all tabbed out. A little trickier fingering there because the chromatic is not on the same string, meaning you're not going. A chromatic is easier to see when it's on the same string. I'll call it sort of a split string thing. So it can be a little harder to see. It's all kind of a crossy fingering there, but just as valid. So we've got it here in this octave, and here in this octave. That'll be device number 1 in the key of E. Device number 2, because I'll mix them all up, is going to begin on the 6th. And that 6th is being drawn from, yet again, the pentatonic major scale. And it's going to go from 6, which is a C sharp in this case, to the flat 5. And here's your perfect 5th here, or 5th. So you got 6, flat 5, 5 to the root, and then to the flat 7th. So that is, again, all over E. Like that. So you got. If I bring that up the octave, again, I get this split string kind of fingering here, where you have that chromatic, again, on adjacent strings rather than on the same string. Tricky to see, but if you stick with it, it took me a while to get that fingering going, and I still blow it once in a while for sure. So we would have that guy. So if I connect that, jeepers, I've got device number 2 to device number 1, device number 2 up the octave, and then device number 1 up the octave, which is kind of neat. So let's see how that sounds. The loop station here is just going to sit on an E9 chord for us, give us some sort of backdrop to play those over top of. Here it is, number 2, number 1, number 2 up the octave, number 1 up the octave. If I just goof around with it, yeah. Great stuff. I'll mix that with a little standard bluesy stuff, and I'll go. Yeah. I'll go. It's great. And here's number 2. the number 1 as well. So it's irresistible stuff. Back in a second here. So that, now, when the blues changes, let's say it's going to go to the 4 chord next, it's going to go to A. I'm going to try to stay in that same position, which is a bit of a challenge. You could just drag all of that up and play it in what would be box 3 in the key of A. But if we challenge ourselves here, we're going to stay in the same position just to get a bit more mileage out of it. Let's say device number 1 is going to be here. And there, that's the device number 1, I'll remind you, is starting on the 4th, going to the minor 3rd, going to the major 3rd, and I'm speaking of A now, watch out for that, and then to the 2nd, and then its root, which is an A flat here, or G sharp is your major 7th, and then to a G natural is your flat 7. So that is, again, it's against the chord of the moment. We're not talking the key of E anymore, we're talking over the A chord. We're calling out intervals relative to A, or A 7th, the chord. Okay, so that's device number 1. Now I can spot an F sharp here, which is the 6th. So that's the beginning of device number 2. We've got this. And I'll combine that with device number 1 here. Now I've got device number 2 up the octave. There's an F sharp there, so now fingerings abound, but I'm trying to stay in position. There's going to be some position shifts in there, but still trying to use that as my footing. And there we go. So that would be device number 2 in A to device number 1. And then device number 2 down the octave. Now I can't, I can, yes I can. That'd be device number, that's number 1. There we go. Tricky fingering there, and it took me out of position, but hey, the one little exception. So from E to A now, in a 12 bar, let's say we're going to the 5 chord now. Again, here's a B7 or B9. I'm going to have to find all of that in the same position. So where is device number 1? Over B. Now I'm calling intervals out relative to a B7th chord now, or B9. Here I'm going to go, there we go. There's our device number 1. You see that on paper there. Okay, there, beginning on the 4th, minor 3rd, here's your 3rd, here's your 2nd of B, and here's your root, and here's your major 7th, and there's your flat 7th in there. You wouldn't ordinarily use a major 7th over a blues situation, but when you're chromatic, that inevitability where it's heading toward the flat 7th, it's a great thing to do. Some people call it like Mixolydian bebop, I've heard that called, and all sorts of strange names for that particular idea. So that, here's device number 1 again in B, and here's to be device number 2 with that crisscrossy kind of fingering. There it is there, that's your 6th, here's your flat 5, your 5, here's your root, and here's your flat 7th. So it's much like the fingering was for device number 2 in E moments ago. So we've got one string, starting 1 string lower. We've got, now here's device number 1 again, up the octave. Completely different fingering for it there, if I am to stay in position. And finally device number 2, up the octave. So what do we have? All that combined, I've got number 1, number 2, number 1, and number 2. Now I'll try to go through a 12 bar, and I'm not gonna nail them all, but I'll try to mix it with a little bit of goofing around, standard blues type motifs, etc. So I'm just gonna change the loop patch here. Here we go, blues in E at 106 beats a minute, if that helps you. Number 1 there, number 2, there's A, back to E, here's B, A, back to A, E, here's B. That's, we're in E still. Going to A, and back to E, and B here, E, A, sorry, it's harder to call it out than it is to play it. And here's a B, E, a little goofing around, into the ideas, and here's your A, E, here's your B, A, E, B. One more time around. coming up a little goofing around. Back to E. Going to B here. A. E. There's your B. Yeah. Going to A here. Here it hints at the chord, so it's no longer this the whole time. Hoping to, that's good stuff as well, but this really alludes to the chord. So I hope you'll find that useful. It's really, really, really helped me. I'm still working on it big time like anybody, and that's just the one position. So next video we'll talk about this position here, 12th fret, which is probably where we all kind of begin. Is hey, we're gonna blues an E. That's your box number 1. It's kind of super user friendly. But I wanted to not start there because we're so used to that guy. Let's break out and jump to there. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful, and we'll see you again soon.